the city was virtually crippled here for a couple of days. Snowmobiles moved around the city. Heavy plows such as bulldozers were out trying to open up streets. We really did some unique things here that were out of the norm, such as putting people that needed to go to the hospital in the back of a military vehicle on a stretcher with... It was basically a transport vehicle, that's all it was. And as far as fires are concerned, we were very fortunate that we never had a major incident occur in the city. Because quite frankly, if somebody's house caught fire in some of these areas where there was no streets plowed, I don't know what we would have done. And believe me, there was significant areas in this city for 24 to 36 hours that you just couldn't get to. So I guess we were fortunate in that respect. I'm Kenneth Galligan, Fire Chief here in Brockton. I have been a member of the Brockton Fire Department since 1968, and I was a captain in the Brockton Fire Department when the blizzard of '78 hit in February of 1978. When the blizzard struck, my memory is that it happened on a Monday morning. They had forecasted the storm pretty much over the weekend that a snowstorm was coming. As it turned out, there weren't too many forecasters that predicted the amount of snow that we were going to get. I went out and shoveled the driveway mid-afternoon to get the heavy snow out, and we shoveled it again at supper time, and it became very apparent at that point that this was going to be a very serious storm. During the night, they kept upping the volume of snow that was going to come down the depths, and I remember the next morning when we were watching TV. At that point, the weather forecasters said they didn't really know when the storm was going to stop. And by then, we had had a very significant amount of snow. The city was starting to get paralyzed. Nothing was moving. Schools were closed. And I went out again and shoveled the driveway as best I could. And quite frankly, I was throwing snow higher than my height in the snowbanks that we created alongside the driveway from shoveling the snow. My neighbor across the street had a snowmobile, and the streets weren't plowed. They had attempted to plow the streets, but the snow came so fast that it just got away from them, and the plows couldn't even get out into our neighborhoods. He stopped by with a snowmobile, and we were talking. I had a snowmobile, in fact I still do, and it was at a barn down in West Bridgewater, and he gave me a ride from my house through the streets down Copeland Street, and we went to the barn down in West Bridgewater and got my snowmobile. And for the first time in my life, I drove a snowmobile from West Bridgewater to Brockton, actually going up and down the streets. It was really unique. Was it illegal? Yeah, it probably was, but there was no other way to get around at the time. Actually, when we get out and looked around, you could see how bad this thing really was. The city at that point was pretty paralyzed. There was virtually nothing moving. Cars were stuck in the middle of the streets. What few streets were plowed were really just plow widths wide. I can remember Warren Avenue just barely open. Once you get off of Warren Avenue, all the side streets were just totally closed. Fire hydrants, you couldn't find them. Conventional plows couldn't push the snow. They brought in some very heavy equipment to move the snow around. And we actually had bulldozers that were going around the city opening streets up in the removal of the snow. So the city was paralyzed, as I remember it, I'm going to say from Monday night right into at least Wednesday. So anyway, I contacted the fire station, and we made a decision to bring some snowmobiles into Station 1 on Pleasant Street. And I actually went into work with the snowmobile. I had a trailer so that we could carry things on the trailer. A couple other firefighters that had snowmobiles also came to Station 1. And we made a decision that any calls that went out of Station 1, one of the snowmobiles would go with the fire truck just in case it was needed. And one call I remember very vividly was a medical call in the apartment complex up off of East Ashland Street at the Abington line. I left Station 1 on the snowmobile to respond with Engine 7 and a military 4x that was they were brought in as ambulances because conventional ambulances couldn't get around the city at all. And I went down Court Street, and at Carey Street, that was the last of the plowing. From Court Street all the way up the hill to Cardinal Spellman High School, the street was not plowed. I looked at all the side streets, nothing was plowed. We got to North Quincy Street, and North Quincy Street was plowed. We got up to East Ashland Street, and I met Engine 7 and this military ambulance. And we put a couple of guys from Engine 7 with medical stuff in the trailer, and I took them out East Ashland Street to this medical emergency. And I'll tell you, it was really scary to see the areas that a plow hadn't even got into. And my first thought was, if we ever had a fire, I don't know how we would ever get to these houses. So the city was paralyzed, as I remember it, I'm going to say from Monday night right into at least Wednesday. Towards the end of the week, when the road started to get opened up, we took a ride to Scituate to kind of check on some relatives that we have down there that live on what I call Lighthouse Point, where the lighthouse is at Scituate Harbor. And when we got down in that area, it was absolutely incredible, the damage that had been done to houses down there. You could see foundations where there were no houses. You could see houses that had pushed off their foundation, houses that were pushed up against each other. I remember going over to Peggotty Beach, which was absolutely destroyed over there. And we parked out on the main road and walked down to Peggotty Beach. And if you're familiar with that area, it's pretty much all stones, very small stones. And those things were like flying missiles during the storm, and you couldn't even find the road. I mean, people just lost everything. Of course, in Scituate, some lives were lost during a rescue operation. A young girl lost her life down there. But that Scituate area and Marshfield area really took a terrible, terrible hit. We went from there over to Humrock. We summited in Humrock as kids. And when you look up in the area of Fourth Cliff, if you're familiar with Humrock, Central Avenue at the base of Fourth Cliff, the ocean just came right across, right into the South River. And there was houses that were sitting out in the marshes. It's something that you would probably see once in a lifetime. I hope I never see anything like that again, but when you think back of what people lost in the storm, it was unbelievable. So, as time wound down, and we get into the following week, things started to get back to normal. But the snow, I think, was here for forever. I don't even remember when it disappeared, but it was here forever. So that's kind of my recollections of the blizzard of '78.